I'm hoping so. I do think potentially I won't be as healthy as I was before, but you've always got to aim to be as well as you can. So I will keep pushing myself to as good as I can feel. But I'm just hoping there are certain bits of my taste that I do hope will come back. Like, I can't eat anything like chocolate at the moment because it really tastes like soap. So I feel like that is an aim to get to.
That was Aaliyah Bunell, and this is the Bailiwick Podcast with me, Julia Morrell. 17-year-old Aaliyah contracted COVID last October and has been suffering the effects of long COVID since then. Very little is known about the lasting impacts of this virus, although it is estimated that up to 15% of people who've contracted COVID could suffer from lasting symptoms of up to 3 years. But what is it like to have long COVID, and what support is out there? Aaliyah joins me in the Bailiwick studio. So Aaliyah, take me back to the beginning. How did it all start?
So I caught COVID from my uncle after going to meet him one day. We just sat across like the kitchen table, and at the time he didn't obviously know he had it, so he wasn't displaying any symptoms or anything. And I went home feeling fine, along with like my mum and my sister. And it wasn't until he obviously contacted us saying that he tested positive that we then had to get tested, and everyone was feeling absolutely fine. Even when I got tested, I didn't think I had it until obviously I got the positive test back, and then slowly like I started getting some symptoms like a sore throat, a headache, and just really genuine like tiredness. And then these all like progressed into like, I'd say almost fatigue. And about halfway through, I started losing some of my taste and my smell. And I think that was like some of the hardest bits, because you are just stuck in your room and there's not much for you to do. So almost like eating at the end of the day is an enjoyable part until you can't taste it anymore.
And you were stuck at home at this time. This was when you were isolating, having tested positive.
Yeah, so my sister and my mum didn't test positive. It was only me, so I was in my room by myself, whereas the rest of my family were isolating together. So I think that was very hard as well, to be isolated from everybody.
And after your 2 weeks, you went back to school and carried on?
Yeah, I came out on the Monday, so I went straight into school, and I was feeling fine other than I was really tired, obviously, because I hadn't exactly moved anywhere for the whole 2 weeks. So it was hard, and I had to take a few half days at school because I'd get really dizzy, which was different because I'd never experienced anything like that. But the school were really accommodating to what I needed and understood how I felt.
Mm. And when did you feel as though, actually, I'm not really shaking this off?
It was really hard for the first few weeks, but then I felt as if I was getting back to normal. But then almost a few months later, it kind of went the opposite direction, where I started getting almost, my taste went again, which was really weird. And that, I think, was the hardest thing, because I thought I was getting back to normal. I was obviously still tired, and it was hard to do things like my dancing. I definitely wasn't where I was, and I could tell. But that my senses almost going again really like put me down, because I did think I was fine, and I thought, like everyone says, you have COVID and then you are okay.
And did your friends, were they supportive of you, or was it quite tough, going into school? Was it a bit of a daily struggle?
I think the first few days that I was in school, everyone was a bit confused, because I was one of the first cases in the school, and I obviously came back not still displaying symptoms, but I wasn't 100%. So I think some people found that quite weird almost. But lots of people, they obviously understood my circumstance and were really nice about it, along with all the teachers at trying to make me feel as comfortable as I could.
And tell me about the lethargy and the continuing symptoms. What did you do about it? Did you go and see your GP in the first instance?
Yeah, so when I sort of my GP about I asked about the taste and to see if they knew anything about it, and especially when I had my fingers got inflamed. I went to see my GP, but they didn't really know very much that could help me. So I kind of felt like I had to go through it by myself. As much as they tried to help, obviously they didn't really understand it, like I didn't either.
And tell me, the inflamed fingers, that wasn't straight away, was it? Was that something that came sometime after October and sometime after you caught COVID?
Yeah, that was in January when my taste went again. It all kind of happened at the same time. And that was really confusing because it really was very sore. And I went to the doctors about it a lot because I got referred to a rheumatologist. And even he did lots of testing and couldn't really conclude exactly what it was. We think it came from COVID as like a reactive arthritis almost. But that even with lots of testing done, it wasn't, you can't be 100% that it was that.
And in these early days, were people talking about long COVID as COVID being a possible cause of your ongoing problems?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that was sort of the first instinct that you went to, that I had been through a virus, and it was probably to do with that. But still, no one was really sure. But I think COVID was, because otherwise I don't think I would have had these problems. They wouldn't have just come out of nowhere.
And a lot of the common symptoms of long COVID people talk about is lethargy, is tiredness, is brain fog, this lack of clarity of thinking. Is that something you felt? And if you did it impact your studies at all?
Yeah, I've always felt a bit like I've been lacking concentration almost, but I've never known if it was due to COVID or not. But when you read about it, it seems like it could possibly be due to that. I've definitely found school different since having it, but I really try to push through. And I know in my exams and things that I was given rest breaks just to try and accommodate to my needs again from the teachers, because they were very supportive of it. But definitely almost like when I come home, you try, because you go through a whole school day, to then repeat it again after school with homework and things. I definitely don't feel as if I do as much as I used to.
And tell me about outside of school. I know you are an aspiring dancer. Is that something that's been impacted by long COVID as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think my stamina and my strength would definitely put down a lot, because I'm on point at dancing, and all my joints on my ankles are really sore, and they're definitely a lot easier to injure than I had been previously, and I can tell that I've had a massive step back. Although I am slowly regaining my strength and my stamina, it's still an ongoing process for sure.
And that's a good point to talk about your recovery. Are you better than you were back in those days in January and February?
Yeah, I think I'd say February was probably my worst month, so I'm feeling better, but still not 100%. There are things, my taste went, so I had to go vegetarian for 6 months because I just could not smell nor taste meat without it making me want to be sick. It was the same with eggs and things, but only recently, about a few weeks ago, I decided I was going to try some meat, because it definitely, my diet, I could tell as well through dancing and things, I wasn't getting enough protein in my diet. So that definitely affected me, and that's only a recent thing. And as soon as I've started that up again, I'm feeling much more happier almost, because I do feel more energetic, and that's definitely something that's really almost given me some hope that I am going to get to 100% at some point. But it's not back 100%. Things like eggs, I still can't really eat. It's just the taste, it's so different. And I used to love food, but now it's just struggling to find what to eat almost.
And tell me about the journey. Obviously, have other people have suffered and are suffering from long COVID? Have you managed to find any support from people who are perhaps going through a similar journey to you, whether that be in Jersey, whether that be at school, or whether that be in an online community?
I've spoken to a few people who, especially my mum's friends or my dad's, who have spoken about COVID, but not so much. I mean, I've only had a few friends who have recently caught COVID, so I've been speaking to them, and I've been through it, so I'm like, oh, make sure you enjoy your food before your taste goes, just in case, and things like that. And I know that if they are feeling like I've been feeling, I can support them, which is good. But no, I haven't really spoken to that many people, but it's nice to know. But as bad as it is for everyone, it's nice to know that there are people going through the same thing.
And just on a percentage basis, say you were 100% before you got COVID in October. Where were you in February, in those dark days, and where are you now on a kind of percentage basis?
Yeah, I mean, I probably went down to, I'd say, like 50% and slowly getting back up, maybe like 75 now. So I'm definitely feeling better, but it's just not, I'm still not where I was, and I can tell. But I enjoy seeing the progress that certain things are coming back to where they were, although I feel like I've still got a long way to go.
And I know this can be difficult for someone who's just 17, but in terms of how you were feeling mentally, did you have some dark times as well? Was it quite difficult?
Yeah, I mean, especially when like I said, I thought I was back to normal, and in like January, February, I went right back down. That was definitely like and then recently, that's one of the things that like inspired me to just try some meat, because I was feeling so not great. I definitely went down a lot before I went back up. So I'd say that was really hard on me, just to have like a different environment to what I normally go through.
And tell me about the ongoing medical support that you've had. You've said you've seen some specialists, you've seen your GP. Is that something that's continuing, and has their narrative changed as you've started to get better and as people have learnt more about the effects of this virus?
Yeah, well, when I left my rheumatologist, when we concluded from all the tests, he was like, if they ever flare up again, feel free to come back, because I think it'll be interesting to see like the progress if it does ever happen again. Luckily it hasn't, so I haven't had to go back, nor have I been to my GP recently, because I try and almost push myself through it myself before I feel like I need to go and see a doctor about it. But definitely especially the rheumatologist, said to come back if I ever have any problems again, just I guess so we can do some further testing. And
you clearly, am I right in thinking you're more optimistic now that, as you say, you're back to 70%? Are you confident that however long it'll take, you will get back to 100%? I'm hoping so. I do think potentially I won't be as healthy as I was before, but you've always got to aim to be as well as you can. So I will keep pushing myself to as good as I can feel. But I'm just hoping there are certain bits of my taste that I do hope will come back. Like, I can't eat anything like chocolate at the moment because it really tastes like soap. So I feel like that is an aim to get to. Is the taste the real enduring problem, or is your mobility, are your joints still a bit of a problem, or are there things that have completely recovered and you've got everything back in one particular faculty? Yeah, I think I do feel a lot better, like energy wise. I don't often feel as tired as I used to, which is really nice. But I think taste is just a big factor for me, just because it's a nice thing. But my joints as well, I am working on them, and I can see progress, like through my dancing, that I'm slowly getting there. So I think that is something that will come back entirely at some point. It's just other factors like eating and my senses. Those are one thing that I'd really like to go back to normal. And in this time now, with almost a third wave of COVID, particularly among the young, are more of your contemporaries caught COVID, and they've perhaps not as deep as you, but are more people looking you in the eye, and they have suffering the effects of COVID too? Yeah, I think people are realizing, like, as my friends do unfortunately get it, they're like, oh yeah, it is like what she was telling us, because I've definitely had a few friends who have really, like, I get to talk to them and I spoke to them about how I was feeling, and now they're telling me, and I can really like empathize almost, and I understand how they're feeling, and I'm just trying to
make sure they feel as well as they can and as helped as they can, and they have someone to talk to if they want to.
And tell me about the summer. Are you planning or having a busy summer holiday? COVID's not getting you down in that respect, I hope.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I go out and about as much as I can, have a nice time in the sun. But yeah, it's been fun so far.
Good. And tell me about your studies. Are you back on form, on point really with your studies as well? I'm looking forward to going into year 13, which obviously is a big year for anyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think the exam's always something to worry about with, just in case my fingers were to ever flare up again. But the teachers are aware of it, and I think they'll be very helpful if I ever do have a problem again. And
tell me about your aspirations. Do you have an idea what you want to study, perhaps after JCG, or perhaps even a career?
Yeah, I want to go into physiotherapy, because I think that would be very exciting. And then there's a lot of things, like I have been through this reactive arthritis things. There's lots of people who do struggle with it, like on a daily basis. So I would be interested in helping people like that.
And is this something that's been inspired by your long COVID, perhaps, or is this something you've always thought of? I'm just wondering whether some good of this could be, if you become a physiotherapist who can understand some of the issues that you've yourself experienced.
Yeah, no, I've always been to the physio lots, like in the past, and almost since I've had COVID, it has inspired me even more that I can help people who have felt how I felt recently, and I like the idea of making everyone feel better.
So just tell me, just to finish off, in terms of your optimism, are you optimistic that the worst is behind you, and are you optimistic that you will make a full recovery?
Yeah, I think it will happen at some point. I don't know how much longer it's going to take, but I can definitely see the progress has been sped up recently, so I'm hoping to make a full recovery soon.
Leah Bunell, thanks for sharing your story. And thanks for listening to the Bailiwick Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. You can find this podcast in all the usual pod places, and don't forget to like and share. The music you can hear at the beginning and at the end is I Shift My Weight by Luno. Tune into the next podcast next week.